With all the ludicrousness of Week 1, let's look at some of the key games to take away. Yes, the University of Texas is overrated once again as they lose their home opener of the 2017 season, giving up an astounding 51 points to the Terrapins of Maryland. This is not only the most points given up to a non-ranked opponent, not only the most points given up on Week 1 by Texas, but the most points given up on a Longhorn head coach's debut as Maryland spoiled the first game of new head coach Tom Herman and the Longhorn crowd. I guess the only good things to take away from this game were the fact that the Longhorns managed 3 offensive touchdowns, a defensive pick 6, a field goal block, and a special teams touchdown. All of that usually would bring out a win against a non-ranked opponent. However, the Longhorn defense gave up 6 touchdowns and a special teams touchdown. Hopefully the Longhorns can regain their ranking once again as they are at home facing San Diego State. I am to believe that this is not only a must-win game for the Longhorns, but a must-dominate game, as after next week they begin conference games and 4 of their following 5 games are against ranked opponents. The lone non-ranked game is a conference game against Iowa State, which I plan to be at. One thing to take away from the Harbaugh-led Wolverines of Michigan is the argument that they might have the best defense in the nation, tormenting the 11th-ranked Florida Gator offense with 6 sacks and 3 fumble recoveries, holding the Gators to only 9 completions and a mere 11 yards on the ground. The game was close at halftime, but it seems that Harbaugh has figured out the Gator system. In the last 2 seasons, Michigan has outscored the Florida Gators 44-0 after halftime. The primetime Saturday night game between the 3rd-ranked Florida State Seminoles traveling to the Atlanta Falcons' new stadium to face the number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama showed their dominance defensively, holding the Seminoles to only 7 points as this was a very rough, hard-fought game. Unfortunately, the only big story to take away from this game is the season-ending injury suffered by Florida State quarterback DeAndre Francois. This is detrimental to the FBS run of the Seminoles as they must lean on their backup quarterback for the remainder of the season. The Sunday night primetime game definitely did not disappoint as it came down to the last play of the game. 2 impressive showings from both quarterbacks made this game a must-watch. However, Virginia Tech freshman quarterback Josh Jackson surprised and impressed all viewers as he passed for over 200 yards and running for over 100, along with 2 touchdowns as his father was watching in the stands, and possibly the most important opening game of his life, for the moment. Then you have the Magic. The 35-0 run led by UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen finished off with a crucial 4th down conversion. All for the next play to be a fake spike and throw it up for receiver Jordan Lansley within the final minute to make the biggest comeback in school history. Although if you replay the video, you can clearly see that Lansley mishandled the ball on his initial step in the end zone and technically went out of bounds on his next step. None of this matters as the Bruins accomplished the impossible. Much like the New England Patriots' magical comeback in this past Super Bowl, one thing you can compare by both teams is that both teams began their comeback with a touchdown scored with exactly 2 minutes and 6 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Both magical runs, but this weekend belongs to junior quarterback Josh Rosen, who threw for 4 touchdowns and almost 500 yards, leaving Aggies fans and coaches astonished and the home Bruins fans in awe. Then you have the Monday Night Football game between the number 25 ranked Tennessee Volunteers facing off against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. With Tech dominating most of the game, led by an unbelievable performance by junior quarterback Taquan Marshall, who had 250 yards on the ground with 44 carries, a school record in attempts by a quarterback, along with 5 touchdowns. I know this isn't fantasy football in college, but 55 fantasy points by a new quarterback that has only completed 5 passes this season and didn't throw a touchdown is unfathomable. What is even more impressive is that Marshall was announced as the starter for Tech just minutes before kickoff. Although an outstanding game from the Yellow Jackets, the Volunteers rallied in the 4th quarter on a few big plays to tie the game and send it to overtime, after blocking Georgia Tech's kicker on the potential game-winning field goal. They also showed tough grit, scoring touchdowns in both overtimes and putting the pressure on Tech, who opted to go for the 2-point conversion in double overtime. Tennessee stopped Marshall on a play that was twice inches away from the potential game-winning 2-point conversion. Great game from both teams, but a gutsy must-win for the Volunteers kept them in the rankings this week.